a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system.
As far as Ukraine, man, I don't think anything in the narrative makes sense.
Any type of centralized power is not good for the common man. They're pushing that envelope at the judicial level, at the level of Congress, the presidential level. They're literally coming out and defying our Constitution. What do we have left? Well, we have, the Second Amendment, and then we have words, which is Article 5. And that's the point that George and I have gotten to.
We just met.
We just met. Yeah, yeah, he's a John to me. That was weird. Trump brought us to the point where we realized that there's a deeper issue here. That's as far as it goes. Now it's up to us to do something about it. There are people around the world that write to me, write to you, and tell us, hey, America's the last hope. It's going to take we, the people, to get off of our butts and enact Article 5 of our Constitution and pull the power from a centralized government back to the states.
The whole point of the next president, to me, is just to fill that spot and not do any serious damage while we, the people, do our job. There's one path. One. That's it. Doesn't matter all the little nuances that go on. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. They're trying to do... Forget all that. It's noise. Get rid of it. Get it out of your head. There's one thing you should be focused on right now, and that's getting this convention called. The President of the United States not only can't save you, he's not the most powerful person, and he's not the most powerful branch in this country. And neither is Congress, and neither is the court. It's the state legislature.
So recently, Wisconsin became the 16th state to sign off on Article 5 for a convention of states.
Poof, just like that. Wisconsin was state number 16. 16 wasn't the stopping point, right? Because Nebraska did end up going through. So we got 16 and 17.
All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted.
Just like that, we have a state number 18, and it's West Virginia. I've got my West Virginia flag right here.
South Carolina became the 19th state, the 19th legislature to pass the COS resolution. 19 states down. We need to get to 34 to call a convention. First and foremost, congratulations to you and the team. It was a huge win for you, for the team. For South Carolina,
Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Iowa, Kansas, Convention of States is on fire right now. Wait a second. Massachusetts? Massachusetts looks like it's joining the Convention of States fight. You got past committee in Massachusetts.
If the Marxists actually thought that a runaway convention was a possibility and it was going to be all haywire, they would have done it a long time ago.
Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
All right, folks. I don't know how many people I was able to hold on to with that audio issue. It's wild. I haven't had any tech issues in a while, and I had just checked my mics off right before I came on, as I always do, and they were working fine. And yet, lo and behold, as soon as it goes live, something went wrong. I still don't know what it was. I had to just restart the entire system, and then poof, it worked. So I don't know what exactly. Maybe the deep state's coming after me. Who knows? Mern, how are you? I'm glad you were able to stick with me. Outstanding. I see you over there on YouTube. And folks, just remember, I always love to hear where you're watching from. So when Mern always throws in Jersey, that's back in the hood. Just was in Jersey not long ago, eating some more while I was, it was a transition spot for a property we bought for our bug out property in West Virginia. So much love to New Jersey, the East Coast in general. I here, of course, am reporting to you from where else? The People's Republic of California. Yes, exactly. Where, if you haven't seen in the news, they just cleaned up San Francisco, and you say, wow, are they starting to care? No, they're not starting to care. In order for you to get your city cleaned up is basically what California and San Francisco are showing you. You have to become an evil dictator, take over a large country by force, and then kill, tens of thousands of innocent people. Then when you go to San Francisco, they'll make sure they clean that place up for you. If you're someone who lives in San Francisco right now, you've got to be absolutely livid. Watching them clean everything up and seeing what your city's supposed to look like, and knowing that you as a constituent are not important enough for them to clean up the city, but Xi Jinping is. Just wrap your head around that, San Francisco folks, because that's disgusting. And anyway, today I wanted to talk about the 16th Amendment and 16th Amendment, and also the ramifications of getting through balanced budget amendments, because we talk about it like it's all peaches and cream. And repealing the 16th Amendment is all peaches and cream. The balanced budget amendment, however, like, people need to, there needs to be an adult in the room, right, to kind of talk about that, because yeah, we all want the balance, the budget balanced, right? And when we call this convention, right, when we get these other 15 states on board, and we call this convention, and I kind of consider Kansas being on board already, but technically we got to get through this weird issue they have. We passed in both houses, but we just got to get through this weird issue of their supermajorities for Article 5 votes. But nonetheless, once we get the rest of these states on board, and we get the balanced budget amendment is likely one of the ones that's going to get through. Now, of the one that and term limits are almost, I feel like they're both a lock. Like, some version of balanced budgets, and it needs to have teeth, right? It needs to have teeth so that it's enforceable. Don't put in any wishy-washy. Don't waste my time with that, right? But if they're going to put in something with teeth, what does that mean, right? And I'm going to get into that in just a bit. I want to talk a little bit, though, about the potential of repealing the 16th Amendment and what that means, right? If you don't know what the 16th Amendment is, folks, it's for income tax. Now, the history behind this is that there were always progressives going all the way back to the 1800s who wanted to get an income tax. Those people out there jealous of the success of others, and wanting them to pay for everything that individual needs. And so their attempts, though, to get it through were constantly failing, because the Supreme Court had always understood that it was unconstitutional. You can't, it seems crazy now because we've had the income tax for so long. But the reality of the matter is, it is unconstitutional. So unconstitutional, in fact, that they had to pass the only way. And this is what I keep saying about why this convention will be so effective, because the only way to make something constitutional that is completely unconstitutional is by constitutionalists to actually add it to the Constitution. And that's exactly in one of the worst years in American history, 1913, they got that ratified. A lot of Republicans back then did not think the states would ratify such a nonsensical amendment, but they did. They did. And they ratified the 17th Amendment that year as well. And Woodrow Wilson, the day before Christmas Eve, went ahead and created the Fed, signed the Fed into existence. So whatever was going on that year, clearly the country was delusional that year. There's just no doubt about that. There's just no doubt about that. How you doing, Norm Sanders, over on Facebook? I'm glad to see some people were able to catch the second one, because once you put that thing out, I mean, it's hard enough. Facebook, 18,000 followers on Facebook, and I can't get them to put this in front of 20 of them. Like, you either know I'm on Wednesday nights, or they ain't gonna help you. And then it's wild because if you guys folks aren't in it, I have the Patriot Think Tank group, which is something that I started on Facebook some couple years ago and just kind of left it there for people to post whatever the hell they want. I don't admin it almost at all. And, I've gotten your content, your group's going to be restricted, and I don't care. I'm just saying, I don't care. I just let it go. But in that group, you can put an @everyone, and I would put that in, and it says everyone in the group will get once a day. You can do this, and everyone in the group will get your post. So I'd put the live event in there every Wednesday. And today, when I went to put it in, it said some members. It actually said this. Some members they might not get this. So I think they caught on to the fact that I was like forcing distribution and being able to get. They're probably like, why are there this many people watching the broadcast? We never let that happen. And then they looked. Ooh, he's putting in. He got over 1,000 people in his group, and he's putting in everyone in it. Unbelievable. Most of those people now, if they didn't follow it over to the page, may think that I just had no audio and disappeared. But to get back to the 16th Amendment, they've been trying to get it through. It was enacted during the Civil War. They did enact an income tax during the Civil War because it was a time of desperation. And the reality was, depending on how the war went, it may not all matter anyway. The Constitution might have been torn up at that point anyway. So they went ahead and enacted it. But as soon as the Civil War ended, it was quickly repealed again and put to the wayside. And not that stopped progressives from continually trying to control the nation's wealth through government. Okay. And they kept at it until finally in 1913, they got it. They got it through. And it took them decades on end to get that done, but they got it, right? And ever since, we've been living in this world. Today, people think income tax is normal. I hear people say to me, well, how would we fund everything if we didn't have an income tax? Like, they don't even understand the concept of tariff. They don't even understand that. It doesn't even register with them. But that is how you would fund it. You would have a sales tax, a modest one. But the beauty of it, and the one scary thing about it is it would fund the federal government more than what it gets funded now. The federal government would bring in far more revenue with a modest sales tax than it would taxing income. But the federal government doesn't care about the money. And this is a point that I want to make. A lot of us believe that the federal government taxes us for the purpose of gaining revenue. But that's not, in the modern day, that is not why the federal government taxes you. And it's important to understand this. Stephanie Kelton, I did a whole video on this, is one of the proponents. She's one of these doo-doo, intellectuals popped out of one of these universities. I have the details on what university and all that in the video that I did. But she's one of these doo-doo. She travels around the country, or was traveling. Since inflation, she's kind of slow to roll a little bit. But she travels around the country looking, or it's preaching to people about modern monetary theory. And what it basically is, for those that may have heard it but don't understand what it is, it's the idea that the issuer of a currency can continually print money. Now, that makes sense considering what we see going on in the world today, quantitative easing, all of that kind of stuff. Well, this is the belief system. And whether you understand or not, we've been operating on this system, on this belief system, since the death of the gold standard. And the idea is that taxation, you would say, why is it necessary if the government can print as much money as it wants? Well, it's necessary in order to curb inflation. So it's really a behavior modification tool more than anything else. And you'll notice, if you look back, how the presidents always seem to come in, when inflation is too low, and not too low, but when it's really low, well, they'll bring in Democrat policies. Or if there is a Republican in office, that Republican will concede to some taxes, or because or I'm sorry, they'll go ahead and cut, right? Because now they want to flow that money into the system. They want people to start spending. But when people start spending too much and too much money gets into the system and too much really loans get released by banks into the system, it starts to cause inflation. And those loans are generally going from the Fed, not even from banks, from the Fed buying debt from the government so the government can waste our money. And when that gets out of control, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, how many hundred, 100 billion to Ukraine, another probably going to be another 100 billion, 200 billion to Israel before it's over. And they just start throwing this money, or $1 trillion for COVID. Like once all that money gets out into the system, it then causes inflation, which means in order to bring it down, they need to get a rise in unemployment because they don't want people to have money. Basically, they need to slow down spending. So they'll allow unemployment to rise. They'll go ahead and tax the crap out of stuff. Interest rates go up, so nobody wants to borrow, and it slows down the money flow, which then brings down inflation. And this is how we've operated forever. And Stephanie Kelton, and I have a clip here from her, so to give you an idea, all right, and who she is, and she's really their poster child. She's their point person to go around the country and do this kind of stuff. And I think it's important that people see it and listen to what they believe, because even the Republicans believe in this. So if you're one of those we can vote our way out of this people, listen to her and understand that the government, both wings, two wings, one bird, they all believe in this.
Maybe you've heard the contemporary version of Thatcher's dictum: there is no magic money tree. It's just another way of saying that everything must be paid for and that the taxpayer is ultimately on the hook for whatever the government spends. It sounds worrying. As individuals, we know that when we borrow money to go to college, start a business, or buy a home, we're personally saddled with that debt. We have to find the money to pay it back. Taking on too much personal debt can lead to all sorts of problems. Even small businesses and large corporations have to walk a fine line when it comes to debt. But the federal government is fundamentally different. Unlike the rest of us, Congress never has to check the balance in its bank account to figure out whether it can afford to spend more. As the issuer of the currency, the federal government can never run out of money.
The federal government can never run out of money. Now, technically, that's true. It's just the money the federal government has and the rest of us have will become worthless. So they won't run out of it. They'll have plenty of it. It just won't be worth anything. Now, she mentions in different parts of that speech how she gets into what I'm breaking down for you now about what taxation really is. And it's important to understand this because people still believe that the government needs to raise taxes to raise revenue. It doesn't. And it's a huge talking point, a huge whoa moment when you realize, so they're just playing this game with the economy and with inflation. And I know now when inflation comes, they're going to hurt me. And that's exactly correct. And what's crazy is they're the ones who create the inflation. So the idea here, okay, and by the way, they create this inflation. So to get into the 16th Amendment again and tie this all in, the purpose for passing the 16th Amendment was not just to tax the rich, because they tax the crap out of everybody, right? It was power. It was to control the rich. It was to start the money laundering scheme that we all know goes on today. The wealthy will go in and they'll pay because they have to pay. Donald Trump has talked about this many times. When asked, well, Mr. Trump, well, why did you, donate to Hillary? And he was like, because I needed to build. And if you don't pay, you can't build. Like they'll hold you up in all kinds of environmental crap and this, that. There are so many regulations out there. No human being knows them all because they're not designed to be followed. They're designed to be weapons. That's what they are. And so the human beings that know most of them, right? And the reason they know them, they know the ones they need, are because they're written into code for a purpose, for punitive purposes. Nobody cares if you don't follow this regulation for 20 years, as long as you're donating and as long as you're staying in line. But if you're not donating and you're not staying in line, well, then these regulations, this is what they're there for. And so they give this money to the politician, and now the politician writes in loopholes into the tax code. Loopholes, right? We all know those, right? Everybody's running on a platform to remove the loopholes, right? We're going to get rid of these loopholes. They act like the loopholes created themselves, or like there's some crafty accountant sitting down digging through their stuff and they just found these loopholes. No, the loopholes are written in specifically for specific actors. Trump also acknowledged this during the debates when she was asking him why, in this one particular year, he paid no taxes. And his answer was, I have the same accountants as the people that you do favors for. Right? Like just you wrote, because people like you wrote those things into the code, and it just so happens my accountants also handle the accountant work for the companies that you're extorting. And so they go ahead and and the companies usually get back more in tax cuts than they give. And it's because the politicians don't care. It's almost like Goodfellas, where they buy the restaurant, or Paulie takes control of the restaurant, and then they order the booze from the liquor distributor, and bring it in the front door, sell it out the back door at a discount. They don't care because they're going to burn the place down anyway, and it's all profit. You follow me? This is how it's always worked. It's how it's always worked. So by repealing the 16th Amendment, that game pretty much comes to a close. The IRS ends. Your paycheck is whole, right? Your paycheck is whole. When now maybe Social Security, if they can't figure out a way to show some cojones and privatize it already, or if they're going to just sit there and watch it go bankrupt, whatever they're going to do. But if you work $20, if you work $40 an hour, $20 an hour, or you work 10 hours at $20 an hour, you're going to get $200 because they can't income tax you. Period. There's no IRS because there's nothing to count. The money's a hard number to collect. It's being collected over the register at every consumer function, whether it's a website or anywhere else. It's being added to the end of your sale. You control what you pay in taxes. You're having a bad month. You know what? I can't afford to buy that right now. I'm going to wait till next month, or I'll save up to get that, or whatever it may be. But your money is going to be your money. Yet magically, the federal government still gets funded. Now, in the government overreach amendments, we can control what the government can spend on. But as a point of matter, under the fiscal restraints piece of this particular convention calling, the 16th Amendment is on the table. It's not only on the table, it's really a must-do. It's a must-do. It's something that is long overdue and needs to be corrected. The 17th as well, but today we're just focusing on the 16th. The government has no business taxing people based on how much they earn. It's none of the government's business how much they earn. None of the government's business how much they earn, as long as that money is being earned legally. Now, if you want to get into, this person's scamming, that person's scamming, if it's legal, it's not scamming. If you're making tons of money buying, fixing, and selling properties, there's nothing illegal going on. And the government has no business meddling in what you're making, as long as those agreements are good between you and the people who you're actually doing business with. Those people can know what you make or what you made on that transaction. But the federal government has no place here. And this is an easy way to fix a major problem that fixes a lot of things. The scope of what that fixes is enormous. Now, at the same time, we're going to force the government to have a balanced budget. They must have a balanced budget, all right? And there needs to be teeth at the end of that, right? So it's not like we just get the 34 states, they call the convention, and then we get popcorn and sit and watch. No, we need to be all over our state legislators as far as what's acceptable and what's not. Their delegates need to go in knowing that if you come back with some willy-nilly balanced budget amendment, I may lose my seat, and you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it approved. That's the kind of stuff that needs to happen. But then what happens when the government now is forced to balance its budget? Well, it's going to be hard times for a little while. Let's be real. We allowed the government to play God with our finances for a century or more. We're going to need now to correct that. And it's going to hurt before it gets better. But once it gets better, it's better forever. Because everybody's all about balanced budgets until it's something that they're getting. Until everyone says the government shouldn't be involved in this, the government shouldn't be involved in that. Until it's something that that impacts them. But the reality of the matter is the whole point of this exercise is to get back to the 10th Amendment. And any power that is not given to the government, the federal government, explicitly in the Constitution, belongs strictly to the states and or the people, which are really the same thing. And in the end, when you do that, like you have to realize how many things the government has its tentacles in right now. Because it's not like the government just gets poorer. The states get richer. That money goes back into the economy. So the economy will boom. There's no doubt about that. But those who are living on government programs are going to have concerns. Not because, it's not even because the government won't have money, because under a consumption tax, the government will have money. The government will have plenty of money. More money than it has now, actually. But this game of modern monetary theory will have to come to a close because it requires deficit spending. It requires it. And if they're not allowed to do it, modern monetary theory is done. So now we bring in the concept of having to have a commodity backing our money. Now, gold may not be the best solution for that, as much as that's everyone's first guess. But the reality of the matter with gold is just simply not enough of it. If we tried to use gold, we would need to start creating denominations of money that are below a penny. In which case, it would get ridiculous. Because it's just like buying. Like, this is why I don't buy gold. I don't because if it all hits the fan, imagine if it all hits the fan. Let's say it really gets bad, right? And there's chaos and people are like, it's just wild. No one's going to value the gold. People are going to be looking for bullets. They're going to be looking for, they're going to be looking for all kinds of resources. But gold ain't going to be one of them. Why? Because how do I buy bread with my gold coins? How do I buy pasta and fill my cupboard with food? How do I do that with gold coins? I can't. And where are you going to exchange them? The financial system just collapsed. Where are you exchanging this gold? And even when you exchange it, you're only going to exchange it to someone whose banks aren't going to be applicable. So now you're looking at pawn shops. But what are they going to pay you in? Right? There's just so many unknowns and so many problems with that concept that I don't do it. To me, real estate is a much better way to go. And I haven't really started to invest, but this is where my planning is headed. But the point is, force the government to balance the budget, and anything that, all of these categories, education, education, workplace safety, all this stuff that the states should be handling and aren't, all of that stuff ends up temporarily, well, not temporarily, but making a shift from federal to state. And you say, well, education technically is with the states. No, it's not, because they've all become so accustomed to sucking the federal government's nipple on and milking that cow for all that's being offered, and dealing with all the strings that come with it and all the curriculums that come with it, and all this is how our schools became the mess that they are. It's why we're still teaching in an 18th century or 19th century format in the 21st century. This is why that is all happening. And that's the kind of thing, the disruptive factor, the disruption that's caused by a balanced budget amendment will shut all that down. Now, in the end, it's going to be freaking magical and wondrous. It's just people right now have to get their heads out of the matrix, if you will. Like the idea that I'd rather let these people run my life and my children and my grandchildren's life, because that's what they're going to do if they're allowed to continue. If they're allowed to continue, central bank digital currency will be the prevailing currency. You will be issued your dollars. You can sit there and be like, I don't want that. I won't submit to that. You don't have a choice. You're going to wake up one morning. They've even said it, like this will happen on a Friday night, so that the weekend goes over, so they can get it all straight, and then poof, you wake up Monday morning, and the news is rocking with this. Americans are all receiving emails from their banks and financial institutions today explaining that their money has been converted due to an emergency financial crisis into central bank digital currency. And then you'll just have it. And that programmable currency will be inescapable. And we need to avoid that point. And that's what this does. There's no matter what element you believe in personally, right? There's a lot of ways to go with what's going on in the world today. You could say it's the WEF. You could say it's the CCP. You could say it's the globalist movement, the Illuminati, the Freemasons. Go nuts with it. But in the end, the goal is the same. It's control. That's the goal. And there's enough now that has been released to us publicly for us to understand this and take action. But then here we are, and we don't take action. We know about it, but we don't take action. Why? Do we still want to pretend? Are we still pretending to ourselves that there's, that this is just going to go away? These people are just crazy. I know everything that I've heard and all the evidence that's out there, but it's just too crazy for me to comprehend. That's see everything that's going on in the world around you and not think that something has to be done to change it. And I'm open to listening to other solutions. There just are none. Article 5 is the only, and even Article 5 is like the smash glass and let's have at it. Like, here we are. We're in a real emergency. But once it's done, once whatever amendments get ratified and the process is over, we could ramp it right back up again and be like, let's talk about the border. Like, the power dynamic is beyond comprehension. Like, you can't wrap your head around the way that everything changes. You can't wrap your head around that, because the entire relationship between the federal government and the people is now changed forever. Forever. Give me 1 second, folks. My dog is in the room with me, and all right back at you. But that's the long and short of it, right? Like, we have to be ready for true freedom. We have to be ready to fully understand what self-governance is, because we haven't really lived under it. We really haven't. We've lived under of the illusion of it, but it hasn't been real. We need to understand that we will go through economic cycles. There will be every 10 years or so a downturn in the economy that doesn't last long, but it hits hard, but it doesn't last long. The economy recovers, the boom starts again, and then somewhere another 10 or 15 years later, boom, you're going to hit another one. And you get to the point where you start preparing for it. But those are realities in a free economy. That's what the realities are. So when AI starts coming in and companies start utilizing it, which, because now they're pushing this minimum wage thing further and further and further. And the entire point of it, if you're dumb enough at this point to still think that the minimum wage is designed to help people, there's not much I can do for you on that front. From day one, the minimum wage had one purpose: remove people from the workforce and push companies to innovate. Push companies to innovate in a way that will remove people from the workforce. There's nothing the globalists, the current government of the United States, which is globalist, there's nothing they want more than for you to be out of work and dependent on them. Don't even get that twisted. The plans for universal basic income are already in play. They've long been in play. They talk about it openly. It's such a creepy fashion, like with such confidence and almost a celebratory attitude. It's just wild. Sound is not matching up with what I speak. Of course it's not, because this is going to be one of those tech days. Give me a sec. I'm going to try to reset and see if we can. It looks perfect to me, but I appreciate your. All right. I hope that helped. If it didn't help, there's really not a lot I can do anyway. So it's going to be what it is. I don't know what's going on right now. I got a 1 gigabit connection going on. Computer's only running this web page with this software. I have no idea what's going on, but it is what it is. But getting on to, getting back to this concept, I'm curious to know what people out there are thinking. I have Rumble, by the way. I have you guys up on live chat on the right side there. I'll go ahead and put something in there. It'll say test, so you see where it is. I will definitely highlight what you guys are talking about as well. For YouTube and Twitter, I don't have up. So if you're going to comment, you'd have to join in on Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble, or Twitch. I have Twitch as well. We're on Twitch as well. But Twitch, there's never any. I never get any watchers from any viewers from Twitch. Sometimes one, maybe two, but I just go on there because it costs me nothing to go on there. So why not invade the liberal space for a little while and try and pump some sense into those coconuts? but follow me, right? Like when it comes to making these changes through Article 5, the biggest barrier that we have, without a doubt, the biggest, we've got Soros out there. We've got, we've got JBS out there, with their nonsense, and they're all on the same message. They're all on the same message. It is to scare the crap out of people so they don't take action. And they do that most effectively with state legislators. And one by one, the states are coming around and figuring it out. And you listen to them all talk, and whenever they pass it, it's always like, at first I was against it, but now I'm for it. Now I'm for it. So, And that's the story across the board. All these states that have come on recently, like last year, there were 4 that came on in 3 months. All of them were like, and they were all states that had the resolution had failed years past. But number one, they're seeing the world get crazier and crazier, and the government get more and more out of control. And number two, they're now, that caused them to actually do some reading, usually spawned on by constituents like yourselves. And I think that's incredibly important, because unlike the federal government, these folks listen. Like, if you find the person and you actively try to get appointment and get time with that person, you can. You can. Now, if you're in a huge district, yeah, you may have to book it like a month out or something if they're getting a lot of requests. But whatever, you can get in front of them. And you could give them the information and be like, look, I just want you to look at this. It's not partisan. So even if you're in a lefty area, it's not a partisan concept. Yeah, if it's a Marxist that you're dealing with, okay, yeah, it's probably going to be difficult. But if it's just a Democrat, like a Manchin type of guy, that's doable. That's totally, if they're reasonable human beings in your district, it's absolutely doable to just get them to read. Just get them to read. We just need someone to introduce, to sponsor the resolution in your state. And you can find out which states have already passed. There are 19 that have already passed. So if you're in a state that's already passed, well, then do what I'm doing. Well, not that my state has passed. The People's Republic, I'm in one of those crazy places where you get, my district changes every single election cycle. They're just constantly gerrymandering my area to keep it Democrat. It's amazing to me. My city is almost exclusively young families who have family values and are not supporting any of this agenda. Yet somehow there's always a district change and magic. They've cut my city into like 5 pieces so that they can do, they can do what they want. It's pretty wild. Yeah, adulting. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I don't know that most folks don't want to, Mern. I don't know that. I think, it's not about wanting to or not wanting to. I think right now, youth are being taught not to, right? Or that it's something other than what it is, right? That like people are being taught, kids are being taught, right? That this is not, kids are being taught that there are entitlements, and that bosses are all evil, and that business owners are evil, and it's nonsense. Business owners are the furthest thing away from evil, and they equate the CEO with the business owner so that they can conflate the different, they can mask the difference between a public company and a private one, because private companies that have owners, already, they're not even worried about minimum wage. They've been paying above the minimum wage, maybe not in some of these insane states now where the wage has just gone far beyond the value of the work. But before this all went haywire, they were all paying more. In-N-Out Burger was paying $11 an hour when everyone else was paying $7. And they did it because they have an owner. They're not McDonald's. They're not a public company. They're not, there's no wage set by some franchise rights. Like it's all theirs. They own everything. There's an owner who can say, hey, we made, $40 million or $100 million or whatever it may be last year. You know what? If I made that, what if I only made 80 and we had the same year, but I gave everybody a $2 raise across the board in the company? Right? Or I started some incentive program, or we gave out some perk, or, some new benefit. And they go, well, yeah, that's about what it'd be. Well, you know what? Then fine, I'll make 80. That's fine. Like they have the ability to make those decisions, and they do. And they end up having very long workforces with very low turnover. They pay their store managers in a burger shop $100,000, over $100,000 a year. They keep those managers in place forever. And they get their raises as they go with seniority, and it's all good. The benefits are phenomenal. That's what owners do. Chick-fil-A, same thing. Privately owned, they pay their people extremely well. Everybody at Chick-fil-A is happy. with their income. You don't hear any of this screaming about income because they're owners. CEOs, different story. They're an employee. They're not an owner. They're an employee, and their boss is telling them the only way you stay hired is if you make more money this year than we made last year. But we made $2 billion last year. Well, then you need to make $2 billion and $2.5 billion this year, because pressure is now coming from who? The average Joe in the market who owns shares of that company. You guys should know this, but nobody puts it together that way. CEOs are not owners, and they're easily replaceable. There's not a ton of them, but there's not a ton of companies out there that warrant top quality CEOs, that have the money to pay top quality CEOs. But that's real talk, right? But a lot of this happened. Things like the minimum wage happen because the government controls the economy. And it's been in control of the economy forever. Like, I can't, at least for my lifetime, from the second the government was allowed to tell two people what they can exchange services and value for, from the second the government was able to regulate that and mandate that, they took control. They took control. And that's something that fiscal restraints removes. It's one big shot to the jaw to the federal government. Boom, term limits with the left hand, fiscal restraints with the right, and then the uppercut comes in with government addressing government power and overreach. It'll be the first time in the history of this country that the people, maybe since the founding, that the people have actually dropped a bomb on the federal government, that they've actually taken shots, back, right? Like, did something meaningful, passed something meaningful. It's literally the equivalent of like walking on Capitol Hill with a constitutional hand grenade and just rolling it down the hall, rolling it down the aisle, and walking out. And just sprinkling everybody in there with constitutional wonder. That's what this is. The government forevermore gets up and says, when they want to make decisions, how many times have you seen federal officials do something with no regard for what the American people think? And insult us further by getting on a podium and telling us what we think. Right? Healthcare was a perfect example of this. When they got up on the podium and started telling us what Americans want, meanwhile, well more than 50% of the population did not want this to be a thing. They just completely ignored it, got on the podium, said everybody wants this, and we're celebrating the fact that we got it. And then everybody's got to live under it. That kind of stuff just it wouldn't happen anymore. Because while they're sitting there scheming on how they're going to take over such a huge portion of the economy and mess it up as they mess up everything. But while they're sitting there scheming that, they have to stop and be like, you know what? What about the 6 states that have already started to pass resolutions for a convention on this topic? And then the other guy turns around and goes, actually 7 now. Another one passed yesterday. Like, what do we do about that? Because they know what will happen. That convention gets called on that topic, and it's over. They'll never be able to touch healthcare or go anywhere near it again. And they will rescind. They will fall back, as they always have in the past when a convention was threatened. That's the kind of relationship we need to have with the federal government. That's the kind of relationship that we require from the federal government. But we don't have that. Right now, what we have are a bunch of individuals, and we have a populace who thinks that electing people is going to win if we just get Trump in office. Trump's not going to do anything. He'll fix the border. That's something within his purview. We already have those laws on the books. He'll do that. But is he going to do anything for the debt? Anything? No. The debt skyrocketed with Trump in office. He has no authority to do anything there. If anything, he added to it. He spent just as like a drunken sailor as the rest of these folks. Presidents can't fix these things. Congress can't fix these things. And even if the unicorn came into the Capitol and they all got together and the House and Senate overwhelmingly passed a fiscal restraints bill and the president signs it and it becomes law, it's one Congress away from ending. As soon as things get a little hard or a little tough, they vote to give themselves an exception. Then they vote to give themselves another exception. And then that just goes on until the whole bill is not even meaningful anymore. When it's in the Constitution, they're powerless to do anything else. I mean, that's the whole point. This is why I get so angry when people call our system of government a democracy or even a constitution or a democratic republic. It is not either. It is a constitutional republic. And the main difference between it is that when you make a change to the Constitution, all must obey. All must obey. And you do it clearly so the courts don't the courts don't have the leeway that they had in the past. And if the courts, even if the courts did want to get frisky, let's say we had 9 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs in there and they just bought into this living document nonsense. The second they made a crap decision, we could amend again and clarify it. Like, we are the ultimate power. I don't care if that has to go, how long that has to go on until everybody gets the message. Until everybody gets the message that it is not the federal, that they are servants. And the federal government is servant to the states, not the other way around. Until that message is loud and clear, we can call convention. I'm for it. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And we get to a point where it's like, hey, we elected you to do the work. We didn't elect you to give us your philosophy and impose your utopia on us. Just secure the border and handle foreign affairs. We'll handle everything within the walls. We can handle the police forces. We can put out our own fires. We can handle our volunteer fire departments. We can handle all of that. There's no need for federal government in anywhere near any of this stuff. Why is there a state murder law and a federal murder law? Like, why is that necessary? If somebody murders somebody, the states can handle the justice. Period. It's just nonsense. It's all nonsense, and there's a solution, and the solution is Article 5. So I will ask you now to take a moment, go to www.thepatriotthinktank.com and click on the first button you see, which is going to say sign the petition. And what will happen is you will click that button, it'll take you to Convention of States page with the sign the petition link, and there will be an option for you to volunteer. Click that option. I don't care if you don't have a lot of time. I don't care. If you don't have a lot of time, then you don't have to put in a lot of time. No one's going to show up with a gun to your head, the second you click volunteer. But what will happen is someone will reach out to you and talk to you. It'd be like, hey, how you doing? Saw you click volunteer. Just wanted to get to know you a little bit. And that person will be local to you. They're not going to be living, like the person that reached out to me lived 25 minutes away. I know this only because they had an event there with a handwritten letter party where we wrote handwritten letters to our local legislators, and she lived, 15 to 20 minutes away. In a state of 40 million people, the person that called me lived 15 minutes away from my house. Because local is how we get it done. I talk to all these grassroots folks, God bless them. And, I look at things from a more umbrella standpoint, right? So I'm trying to keep track of what's going on in every state, everywhere. But like when you talk to grassroots folks, man, they know their district phenomenally well, even their state phenomenally well. When you start getting outside the state, now you got, they're so dialed in locally, and that's all we need. That's all we need. We don't need everybody to be focused everywhere. We just need everybody to focus on their own district. You'll have one, maybe two names that you need to be reaching out to, and that's the person who you need to influence. That's the one. And I think in most states in this union, you will find that person far more accessible than anything you will ever find in the federal government. And that is where your attention, all of our attention, needs to be focused. Yes, we still need to elect Trump to the presidency. Yes, we still need maybe DeSantis after him, and keep keep that ball rolling, right? To protect us from the things that presidents can, right? Keep the border secure, right? Deal with the CCP problem, right? No wars. That was a nice 4 years, wasn't it? So yeah, those things are still important, but they're not going to fix the structural damage that is with this country right now. And if we choose not to do this, if we choose to just continue to tell ourselves this is going to take forever, it's never going to get done, they're not going to ratify all that stuff. How are you going to do that? And you just sit there and continually think of every way that nothing can happen, nothing will happen. And if nothing does happen, something will happen, and it ain't going to be a convention. I mean, what's the break point? Do you got to wait till the announcement for CBDC? Is that what you got to do? You got to wait for them to tell you your money is now all digital, and you couldn't get it. And if you do have money under your mattress, that it's only valid for the next 60 days until you turn it into a bank and convert it to CBDC? I mean, do these things sound far-fetched to people? I don't know. Do those things sound like they're out there? Does that sound like crazy talk? Because it's not. It's not crazy talk. It's incredibly real, and it's actually a fairly accurate description of how it will go down. If you think that you can, I don't know, put my money under my bed, that's all. I'll keep my cash. What good is that going to be when they tell you need to turn it in 60 days, and then you say I ain't turning in nothing? And then then you go to buy bread and the stores are telling you we don't accept that anymore. And now it's completely worthless. It's very real. And we're very, look, whether we're a year away or as the 2030 agenda states from the UN, whether it's 7 years away or a year away or 2 years away, if we know that it's coming, why are we not why would we wait to figure out exactly when this is all going to go down? I mean, if you're like me, you're probably thinking I'm waiting for it for some emergency, whether it's a new pandemic, a fiscal crisis, banks collapsing, whatever, to happen before the 2024 election. Some drama scene is going to go down to try and cause chaos in the 2024 election. I don't know what it is. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what the plan is. They don't invite me to those meetings. But when you look at how they're attacking Trump, you look at how many bogus charges are thrown on this guy, and they're adding more and more and more, and it's like ridiculous. It's converting people to vote for him. It's insane. And in the end, they're not clearly there's been a decision made that this man cannot run for president. And since all these bizarre legal nonsense things aren't going to happen, well, then what's left? Something's going to go down. I don't know what it is, but I know that they're dead set on not allowing Donald Trump to run for the president of the United States of America. And in that spirit, they're going to pull something out of their bag of tricks. And the fact of the matter is, let them pull it. What's important is that we all know what they're pulling and that we all understand, the importance of what we're doing. But like I said in the intro, in the teaser video, like, forget all the little things that are going on. Forget all that. It's all noise. It's all noise. Even the serious stuff, like what's going on in Israel and Hamas, and like it's noise. There's a solution that's right in front of us that we could start handling right now. We don't need to wait for Ukraine to get figured out, or for Israel to get figured out, or for any of that to get figured out. We have an internal problem that needs to get addressed. And I'll be damned if we don't freaking start taking action to address it. I mean, it just drives me nuts. And the only thing I ask of those that watch this live and those who watch this, who watch this after the fact, whatever amount of people Facebook will allow to watch it, I don't care if it's 20 or 2,000 or 20,000. I've got videos out there that did 65,000. I don't think they'll ever let me get to that level again. But that was when it was new. But in the end, regardless, if you're still here and you're listening to me right now, you should already have another window open. Going to the website, thepatriotthinktank.com, clicking on sign the petition, and getting your information filled out. They'll walk you through how to get to Kaz University, where you'll find tons of awesome constitutional information. Follow the page, follow their YouTube and their Rumble, right? Convention of States Project. Get engaged, learn. We've all been cut out of civics in our lives. It's been taken out of our classrooms since the late 60s, early 60s even. So now it's up to us to learn it, because they're not going to teach it to us. Your kids are not going to learn it. You're going to have to teach it to them. Yeah, pay off your debts, get debt free, help yourself now. And you know what? It may happen while you're still paying your debts off. You need to manage your money fiscally responsibly anyway, right? So in the end, manage your money responsibly. But yes, if you have credit card debt, yeah, you need to get rid of that. All hands on deck to get rid of that. Now, if you got mortgages and things like that, rentals, some debt is good. Their income, right? But in the end, because when they make this conversion, everything's going to convert. So your debt's going to convert, your income's going to convert, everything is going to be an apples to apples convert. They're going to try and make it as painless as freaking possible, because the idea here is to pluck the most feathers out of the chicken with the least amount of hissing. So they're not going to wake up and be like, your money's worthless. They're going to wake up and be like, your money would have been worthless, but now it's not, because we handled this emergency and converted everyone's money to CBDC. Now you have completely programmable money. Now the federal government has full insight into every single transaction that goes on in the nation, which will inevitably, probably right out the gate, start to be used as a weapon against the people of the United States, as they continue now to come up with new laws and new punishments and new penalties to steal money from whoever they want. And when they need to, they won't need to tax anymore, because now, in order to get you to stop spending, they can just turn off your money. Literally, turn it off. If there's a certain sector of the economy that's causing the issue, well, they can manipulate that. They can do anything they want at that point. If they need you to spend more because they're trying to inject more money into circulation, well, if they need you to spend more, they can put an expiration date on your money, that if you don't spend it by the 31st, it's going to expire. No need to tax. No need to cut taxes. They're going to control all of that, which takes it right back to that modern monetary theory. This is not a world we want to grow up in, folks. This is not a world we want to grow up in. And everybody, and if you think, well, how long is it going to take them to implement all this? Like, if that's your mindset, then explain to me why you don't care about your grandchildren and your children. Or even just children in general. Like, why is this the world? This is what your generation is going to leave them? I mean, it just drives me nuts. This is no way to set the next generation up. This is no way. All right. I've passed the hour. And it's been a tough broadcast anyway, because of the fact that it started the way it did. I lost all the group followers. I lost all that stuff, but I kept going because the show must go on. And again, it will be out there for viewing after the fact, so I can play the replay back to the group. If you haven't joined the Patriot Think Tank group on Facebook, get on in there. It's all free willy, man. You're going to see some spam hit there. I mean, somebody tried to hit me with porn the other day. I caught it, got rid of it, but like, they're spamming me. They're doing everything they can. I don't care. I'm leaving it open. But you'll see a lot of good information. There's a lot of good people who are posting some interesting stuff. And yeah, you're going to get some people that are posting some coconut conspiracy theories and stuff, and it comes with the territory. But I believe that you guys are smart enough to know when to scroll and know when to stop. All right, until next week, folks. I will be on the day before Thanksgiving, so I look forward to that one. But I hope everyone's preparing their birds and doing everything they got to do. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. Unfortunately, I only have some of my family with me. We didn't get to all get together this year, but I hope everyone has a good one. We'll talk about it again next week.
And like that,